So the New York Knicks worked out Thomas Bryant, and according to Ian Begley of SNY, it was an impressive workout. They also plan on bringing in Trey Jemison and Alex Len, which goes to show that the Knicks aren't fully bought in to what they have at the center position, and it makes sense. Errol is still developing. Mitchell Robinson hasn't been able to stay healthy, only one healthy season in his career. And Karl Anthony Towns obviously is electric, but you need depth behind him. And at the point guard position, you'd think that Jalen Brunson, Malcolm Brogdon, and Deuce McBride would be enough, not to mention Todd Kolek's on the roster as of right now. But the team is bringing in Dennis Smith Jr., former Nick, for a workout. The issue with Smith is that he plays good defense, he can slash to the basket, he's athletic, but he's never been even a capable three-point shooter. 29.8% in his career. That's not going to get it done because the only guy on that roster that can't shoot. Hook Porty can't shoot, but like Mitchell, the only one that was a part of the rotation consistently. And Josh Hart isn't the best shooter in the world. Uh, but yeah, I mean the Knicks basically everyone can stretch the floor and can shoot, and to have a guard not be able to do that, I think would be a liability. But it doesn't hurt to bring in Smith to let him compete with Brogdon and Shamit. You really got nothing to lose. If anything, it's going to push everyone around him to be better. But I think we can have a serious discussion about the front court because everything that I just said, but when you go into the playoffs, you want to have fresh legs, and I do think it would benefit Cat and Mitch to play less minutes than they did last regular season. Specifically, Cat. I mean, Mitch literally came back like very late in the season, ended up starting next to Cat, Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. I like the idea though of having either Thomas Bryant or Alex Len behind Mitch to just make sure that he can just go out there, do what he has to. Even if Mitch plays like 10, 12 minutes a night. That's perfectly fine with me. And then expanding upon that come playoffs just to keep him fresh because the Eastern Conference is literally wide open. I mean, there won't be a more wide open Eastern Conference probably ever in the Brunson era, at least, like what they have right now. Halliburton's out for the season, Tatum's out for the year. The Cavs are healthy. I need to see it to believe it, though. I mean, the Cavs couldn't even get out of the first round. I get they faced Indiana, but still. The thing about the Knicks is if they had played they probably would have preferred to play the Pacers in the first round just because they would have been more fresh. But I just don't know how I feel about like a 10-man rotation. I feel like the Knicks right now are probably a 10, 11-man rotation team. I'd be fine with them going 13 deep because right now we know that the starting point guards can be Brunson, the backup point guard is probably going to be Malcolm Brogdon, and then at the two you've got McHale, and then we'll see Jordan Clarkson and Deuce McBride. So, and Brogdon is far from a guarantee, but I have a feeling Brogdon is going to make the roster. I think Shamit's also going to make the roster. So just like that, you've got four positions that are already locked in for playing time, and then you have to add in a fifth one for, of course, Deuce, because Clarkson's a backup two guard, Brogdon's a point, and then Deuce and Clarkson probably are gonna. It's gonna be like a smaller lineup, and then you've got Yabusele, and then you've got Mitchell Robinson, other names like Landry Shamit, of course. Pacoma Diade might be a part of the rotation. So I just like the thought of having different guys to throw at you. Maybe you can play the matchup if you're playing a team that struggles defensively. Then yeah, you probably would want to get Jordan Clarkson out there. If you're playing a team though that is a better offense, then you go with Deuce. So like just having all these different options to throw at teams makes a ton of sense. And then once we get to that front court, you've got Yabusele, OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, like I said, Dadier, and I'd even probably throw Landry Shamit is going to be out there. That's exactly what I like to see for the Knicks versus last season. There was like 8 guys, even less at times for Tibbs, and he started to go deeper and deeper into the bench, and they just played better. The second unit was so fresh, and it sort of just it kind of just galvanized the roster. If I'm being completely real, and that's what this team needs is they need a spark. They need the bench to be able to play well and to do something. And Brunson, Cat, like these guys were asked to do a ton. Same with Hart and Anunoby. And it just seems like this is the first roster the past 3 years where you can actually look at the bench and think of it as a weapon. I mean, the Knicks had like IQ and Obi and Mitch. Like they've had good bench players, but a bench that they can rely on, that they trust, that can play serious minutes and they can win with it and use it as a weapon. That's what I'm excited about the most. It's just a matter of the rotation. We should know in a couple of weeks what the rotation is going to be once we get closer to training camp and obviously the preseason. We'll know the starting lineup. I'm still leaning towards Brunson, Bridges at the. I think yeah, I think you kind of have to go with Hart, and then OG and Cat. Because if you put Hart on the bench and you start Mitch, then you certainly are going to have to bring in another big because the bench would be Errol Hukporty and that's it. And you want two bigs on the bench. I do think the Knicks will bring Mitch and Hukporty off of the bench, so that way they can just keep both of them fresh, and then they'll go with Cat. And then Cat will also have two very good defenders that can switch everything, and Anunoby and Hart. Also, Hart's a very good rebounder. Not to say that obviously that's what Mitch specializes in, but especially like those loose balls and the long rebounds, is that the Knicks are going to be able to track them down. And just getting wings that can switch everything, OG, Hart, and Bridges, that's going to help Cat a ton. And Bridges also can switch on a point guards and defend them, which helps Brunson. So I mean, literally, it's just Bridges is an elite defender. OG is an elite plus defender. Josh Hart's a good defender. And then you have, of course, Brunson and Cat, who are offensive minded players. Off the bench, Mitchell Robinson, Yabusele, Clarkson, McBride, Brogdon. I don't see Dottie being a part of the rotation, if I'm being honest. I think he's still developing. I mean, he's what, 20? I think Dottie's in 19. I don't even think he's 20. And then to that point, you're talking about Kolek and Landry Shaman, and they could honestly they could run Shaman as the backup 3, Clarkson as the backup 2, McBride as the backup 1, and not put Brogdon on the roster. But then you have the same issues as last season, as who's running the offense, who's facilitating, taking the ball up, helping out Brunson, because Tyler Kolek isn't ready, and Deuce is an off-ball guard. Yeah, so like Dennis Smith Jr., I don't think has a chance to make the roster. I think Brogdon has a really good chance. I think Shamit's a lock to make the roster, which means they'd have to trade Kolek or Dottie for Brogdon to make it. But then if they bring in Brogdon and Shamit, they don't have space for, of course, Thomas Bryant or Alex Len. I'd like to see one of those guys make the roster. I know I said this in my last video. I think it was 2 videos ago. It's kind of frustrating to me how the Knicks carry guys who aren't really going to play, like Dottie, Hukporty, Muhammad Diawara, Tyler Cole. Like I get financially they have to, but this is why I just wish that wasn't the case. So you could have 15 guys who are ready to come in at any moment's time. And imagine how fresh the Knicks would become playoff time too. By game 6, it seemed like Brunson was just out of gas. He's going up against a team that was pressing him full court. No one else was taking up the ball. No one else was really doing much. I mean, Cat had a good series. I mean, I think Cat was the only starter, and that was plus and the plus and minus. But consistently, it was difficult to be able to get a stop and to defend with Brunson and Cat out there. There's a reason why when Brunson was out there and no Cat, they were positive, and then when Cat was out there and Brunson wasn't, they were super positive. It's just because you can't build up a defensive scheme with 2 bottom 5 defenders, which is why I like the thought of having as much defense around them as possible. I think Mitch literally would be perfect between them, but then you risk Mitch getting hurt. I don't know if he's going to be able to sustain that because he'd be playing center for like an 82-game season. But if you bring in Bryant or you bring in Len, then it takes a lot of pressure off of Mitch and the Knicks, because keeping Mitch healthy is the biggest thing. And I'm hoping they also get an extension done with Robinson, an extension that gives him what he's worth, but also has like a clause sort of in his contract to where if he does get hurt, the Knicks aren't fully responsible for paying that. I don't know. I don't think Mitch would take that, but it's just kind of where we're at. Is I worry about Mitch staying healthy, and certainly long term, if they do give him an extension, I worry about that. And one more thing, and this is probably obvious to every Knicks fan, but it was reported yesterday that Cam Payne will not be returning to the Knicks. Obviously, when they brought in Brogdon, it makes sense, but just to officially clarify, yeah, Cam Payne will not be back. And after he got benched in the play, Cam Payne had a great game 1 against who was it? So long. Why do I not even remember who we played? Detroit, right? Yeah, this feels like forever ago. Yeah, after that great game 1 where he kind of honestly like sparked us to that win, I mean, Payne was just not even a part of the rotation.